Hello there everybody and welcome to a new video for Age of Wonders 4. In this one I want to introduce to you how to make yourself the currently most bonkers dragon setup that I have found in this game so far. It's focused around building a one-man army, and it can be built either totally focused into one-man army playstyle, or you can go into a more support-heavy playstyle later down the road. The beginning is always the same, and I want to guide you through how to get it done, how to fight those early fights without blowing yourself up, and all those little things in between. The wonderful part about this build is it works for any faction. The dragon is able to support himself entirely with the stuff that you have on the dragon, but everything from your cultural spells or tomes is of course helpful and welcome. So the first thing that I want to point out here is we play with a nature dragon out of one simple reason: you have access to the nature aura. This is a stupidly overpowered thing, and currently from all the auras that you can pick, the best one for creating a one-man army, because you gain a stack of regeneration each turn. Once you have it, well, before you know it, you will be regenerating 30 HP each turn, and the best part about it is it works for adjacent friendly units as well, so you become a quite massive powerhouse with that. But we're going to go over each stage step by step. So when you're level 1, this is probably the hardest part, and you want to look for something that looks like this, mostly composed out of tier 1 units. That is the victim that you're looking for, and you want to do this with your dragon alone. That's also very, very important, because every unit that you put into this whole game will just make things harder to coordinate, because it's easier to lure the enemy around one unit. And the other thing is you get less XP on the dragon, because this way, when we do it like that, we gain all the XP on the dragon himself. So let's get on in and get some damage down. This is by far the most dangerous and difficult part, and the level 1 fight, I strongly recommend you to use whatever spells you have at your disposal, because you are here at your weakest. But as you see here, the enemy isn't able to really deal us too much damage, and with our first spell we're taking down the first enemy, and from this point on, deal as much damage as you can, always to the healthiest unit. Basically, if you can kill the healthiest unit, do it. But try to kill somebody every turn, and don't care about taking damage early on. Here I am playing with a trait that allows me to eat up corpses, so temporary heals is there. You can also have the luck to start out with a nature tome that offers healing, or a culture that offers healing. These are making things much easier, but the first fight doesn't require healing. As you see here, we totally did it. We're level 2 now. So the first thing, we're actually level 3 because we picked up a level up down there. The first two things that you want to have: tail swipe. That's another massive AoE skill, and most importantly, it does counter the enemy's defenses. And the other thing that you want to pick up is the Comet Dragon Breath. So now you are able to deal some serious damage. I'm going to stay now one turn inside my friendly domain, because that's where you heal the most, and let my scouts do the victim scouting for me. So now, you see there, the dragon is now well healed up. You need some HP early on, that's why I did it like that. And now let's head on over to the next enemies. You will see things are much, much easier from that point on, because of the stuff that we already learned. We're working now hard towards our next milestone, and that's level 4. So packs like these are your ideal victims early on. You just want packs that have a very low enemy density so you can take them down. This now will be a massacre, I promise. So here again, I'll let the enemy come towards me, so I can just get in there and smack down that ranged attack. You can of course use a different size or form of your magical attack. It's up to you. I personally prefer the meteor because of strategic advantages. There we go. So next step, tail slap, boom, we win. That's already that. Of course, I took a little bit of damage here again, but we will take care of that problem in no time. So, level 4 is the moment when you can gain your first aspect. I strongly vote for the Materium aspect out of two reasons. First off, 2 points of physical defense. This makes you so much more potent in fighting alone, and the 30% critical hit chance apply to all of your skills. Yes, also the massive AoE ones. So the other aspects here are all nice and dandy, but I personally, well, I haven't seen any bigger impact on my performance than with this one. You really feel this. It makes you more survivable, and it lets your AoE attacks sometimes hit like crazy. And the next step we take now is actually down to the support roster, and we pick up Restore. This skill is a trusty companion for you. It will be relevant through all stages of the game, simply because it is a negative status remover. Once you have access to native regeneration, you don't need the healing that much anymore, but sometimes you just want to cleanse negative statuses from your dragon. This skill provides, and it also makes your early game a lot easier. So let's take down some other baddies, and you will notice that things start to get ridiculous from here on. Of course, I'm playing here the Empire game a little bit lousy, here currently just for the dragon. So once you want to auto-resolve combat, I strongly recommend, by the way, to disable mana spending here, because your dragon doesn't know how to spend mana smartly. So as you see here, we have now virtual HP. You could now also, if the enemy would be a larger amount, just fly back and regenerate some more HP before you engage. It's up to you how you want to play it. It's just a really good strategy if your dragon is already pretty beaten up when the combat begins. So you can conserve, or you can get your HP a little bit higher. So we have the meteor, and now you see a pattern emerges. We get ourselves into position here. Boom, tail slap, and here we now. Here's one thing. I'm going to use Corpse Eating here, but if I wouldn't have access to that skill, I would now cast a Restore to avoid any damage on my real HP. Your green HP bar is basically the thing you want to protect the most, because, you know, the 50% mark is ideal, because that's where Draconic Rage does trigger, because, you know, when you're 60% or lower, you deal more damage, you want to be there. But at the same time, if you're too low, you need to regenerate too much at the beginning of the fight, and it is a little bit tedious. So we want to get back into our Dragon Lord skills now. Let's level up Dragon Scales because of the physical extra defense. It is just so much of a big difference. The more physical defense you have early on, the better. So let me print quickly another scout, and then we continue. So my scouts are currently busy for me picking up new goals and targets where we can send the dragon. If you want to power play a little bit more than I do here, you can totally just recruit yourself a hero once you have enough spoils and send a second army into the opposite direction of your dragon, so you can maximize your conquering range. This makes this build even more stupidly overpowered due to the fact that you totally have two massive armies at once, because this dragon is, well, let's call it self-sufficient. And I think this build currently is too strong, because at some point, if you get lucky, by the end of this, you will have sometimes the pleasure to just annihilate 3 army stacks of the AI with just one dragon. I'm not over-exaggerating here, it is possible, but the more heroes you have in the enemy army, the less likely it gets. Some things are just kryptonite for you, so for example, buff stripping is really bad for you, but in some situations, this build even is able to kill 3 entire army stacks on its own, unless you misclick like I do here, but things are less harmonious. But as you see here, even with stupid misplays from my side, we have really no problem at all at this point anymore. And we are already pretty overwhelming, but it only gets better from here. The next major breakthrough point that we're working towards is the Nature Aura. Once we have unlocked that skill, well, it's basically a free ride until you have hit level 12. So the next thing we're going to level up, for me, is either Tail Bash or Quickened Breath. So I'm personally going always first for Tail Bash because it adds the ability to stun on your Tail Slap, and this is really powerful because that means you have the ability to disable the enemy with your attacks, and that's really good because that gives you again more time, and time is of the essence with this when you are playing a one dragon army build because you want to incapacitate the enemy as much as possible as well, because this gives you opportunity to just regenerate up and all these things. So we're right now relying a lot on this, but that doesn't really hurt at all. As you see here, it's just that good. All right, here we go. Here we have a supporter on the enemy side. You will notice this is one of the things that will make the combat always a tad bit harder, because your damage over time gets removed, and yeah, supporters are overall a pretty obnoxious bunch. There we go. And my personal recommendation when you're up against supporters is focus on single targets and take them out whenever you see an opportunity to do so, because these guys are really problematic for you. So here again, corpse eating because I can, or I would restore otherwise to just make sure I don't have too much damage. Also another thing, if you are able to tail slap a single enemy instead of attacking, do so. The tail slap almost always deals more damage than your regular attacks. And as you see here, we're racking up levels stupidly fast, and there's almost nothing the enemy can do against that. So we still can't level Nature Aura, so let's go for Quickened Breath. I personally skip Terrifying Gorging by now completely. Two reasons. For one, we only have 20 levels, so we want to conserve our skill up points as good as we can. And for another thing, for a single army build, it actually sucks a bit, because it's a gamble. I don't like gambles. It's either healing you and destroying an enemy unit and everything is wonderful, or it's a quite miserable mini nuke that will leave you vulnerable, and most of the time it's just a very risky move that did hurt me more often than it did use me, than it did bring me any profit. So by now I have optimized it out of the build, because, you know, I just don't need it anymore. So maps like these, when with magic materials, are always the hardest. I'd personally recommend you to leave these until you have the regeneration aura up, because, you know, things are a little bit woozy around there, out of the simple reason that there are environmental effects at work that really are just bothersome. So let's do a try and do our first auto combat, and as you see here, things didn't go out well. So you should always give it a try every now and then, because, you know, it isn't that exciting and the combat feels quite samey quite quickly. And at some point, the AI is able to just take over for you because of you being just stupidly overpowered at what you're doing. So this is one of the scenarios where I actually kite back. They are not clumped together. I don't like that. And I just want to regenerate more HP. So don't feel shy about doing shenanigans like these. It just pays off. Now is a good moment. Now these two guys are at least standing for me together close enough for a good old tail slap. And as you see here, boom. This guy's stunned, this guy's not stunned, but that's okay. That's why the stun on the tail slap is quite valuable in my opinion, because you just can do so much heavy lifting with that. This here is a little bit of a weird situation, so I'll rather heal. I could also do a little bit of magic, but, well, the enemy is all mixed up, so I rather build up virtual HP and just soak it up for a moment. Here we go. And here we take down that guy. So here, as you see, probably that's why the AI had such trouble. If you feel very unhappy with the outcome of a combat, you can totally just retry it until it fits. We went for the cannibalistic thingy. As you see, every little support skill that you have on your roster does help, but it is by no means a must-have. So here, for example, the direct attack is better than the tail slap because I have all three actions available. But basically, your basic attack is only better than a tail slap if you have all three actions available, on average. Alrighty, so here we are at level 8, and that is Nature Aura Unlock, and we also gain access to a signature skill. So here you can choose whatever you like. I love stuff like Mass Rejuvenation. Restoration is also really nice because it's a sweet burst heal. You can also go for extra nukes like Frostfire Detonation, or, well, choose to your own liking. Summons are also pretty nifty. Sadly, I haven't any offered here. Draining Blade, I didn't like it too much because it's just not high enough in damage, but Mass Rejuvenation is a really nice one together with Restoration. I'll leave it up to you. These skills are also later on super handy when you want to support entire armies. Really good stuff. Okay, so we're level 8 now, and now we're ready to take over the world. So let's see if auto combat does resolve for us. Yeah, as you see, no damage, no nothing, we just leveled up. That's the power of the Nature Aura. So don't worry, I'm going to show you the Nature Aura in action too, but I just wanted to showcase the difference there. So from this point on, it's totally up to you how you build your dragon. It's only a one difficult decision, difficult-ish at level 12, but from here on, it's up to you whether you want to go into personal fighting style. If so, I recommend defense and in the battle magic division resistance, really good stuff. And if you want to go into the offense, battle magic is a really good pot because the Dragon Breath of yours is a magic attack, and the skills like, where is it? Arcane Strength, everything that ignores status resistance is really nice, and also Distant Evocation is awesome because the plus range gets applied to your Dragon Breath. Really, really nice stuff. If you want to be more like the army commander later down the road, you can totally dip into support skills. These won't give you too much benefit at the beginning, but it is later a much more solid choice if your dragon is supposed to lead an army. But if you want to stay on the one dragon army thing, you actually just need to pick up a little bit more of health if you want to, and from that point on, either magical offensive skills or melee offensive skills and the defense skills of both battle magic and warfare are massively powerful, because this point here gives you status resistance. You can buy that several times, and status resistance is, later down the road, one of the most important stats for this build, because statuses are basically what's able to kill your dragon still. Damage won't be that much of a big threat anymore because you just heal that much and you can CC that much. So let's get into one last manual combat, and then I'll fast forward until level 12 to showcase the last decision for you to take. So here you can now totally slap on yourself those regeneration spells. This lets you stack up the regeneration stacks much faster. And now we step forward, one big flashy goop meteorite coming down. It's also poisoning enemies, it's very nice. And if you have nuke magic available, also make good use of it, but don't overstress your mana pool. Always keep up mana for the rest of your empire. And as you see here, that's hardly a fight anymore. We're now healing every turn way more than the enemy is actually capable of dealing damage to us. If ever a problem would arise, I could just fly away and slap a regeneration spell on me and all those things. So it's just that easy. So we're already super powerful, but we can grow even more powerful still. So the rest of the skilling I leave up to you. I'm going to give you now a bit of a talk next about this level 12 signature skill. Here we are. So level 12 does offer you a new transformation. This is a new breath attack. This upgrades your breath attack in size and in several different effects. For me, well, there is actually only the choice between two of these. Shadow transformation is the one I personally prefer 90% of the time. Two reasons. For one, it is a hard CC on the enemy. It inflicts frozen. And the other thing, it heals per enemy hit. So it is a friendly fire skill, so you can hurt your own units with that, but it is massive in terms of sustain and crowd control. Brutal, just brutal. The other option you could totally go into instead is the Materium one. It offers the gilding effect, which also is a hard CC. It stuns the enemy, and you also gain gold if you kill them gilded. And it inflicts bleeding, always. So damage over time wise, the Materium transformation is more powerful. If you are out for massive amounts of damage, or the highest amounts of damage, Materium is probably the best combination between safety and damage, whereas Shadow Transformation is a little bit more on the defensive side, but the burst heal that you can pull off with this one is massive. I personally prefer Shadow because it gives me the ability to fight against way higher overwhelming masses than the Materium one does. So I'll leave that one up to you. I think both of them are really good. The other ones, well, I think Astral Transformation is just not as good as Materium, end of the line. Yes, it does pretty much many comparable things, but Stun is just a worse gilding. You know, if they are gilded, they drop gold. If they are stunned, they don't. And Bleeding and Electrification deal the same amount of damage. The only difference is Electrification can also afflict ethereal and undead units. So here's a tiny little bit of more damage there, but seriously, doesn't matter. The Chaos one, I find that way too unreliable, and, well, random negative status effect is pretty okay, but it didn't overwhelm me. Nature was one I really did like too. It's a close competitor to the other ones because it applies regeneration, so you can totally use it now as a friendly fire thing because it doesn't deal damage to allies anymore, and it always inflicts massive damage over time. Damage over time wise, this is the most powerful one, and it denies healing shenanigans. So choose to your own liking. I cannot clearly say which one of these is the best one here to choose. So I'll leave that up to you. Write me a comment about your personal preference. I like to go Shadow. One last thing to say about these, you can also totally define this decision by choosing the affinity you want to have most, because this transformation and that transformation also give you an extra affinity point. From that point on, the build is up to you. You can make yourself more tanky to be more of the single target guy, one-man army guy, or you can skill this dragon more into a army leader style. I'll leave that up to you. One last thing I want to add in before I close out this video. It is sometimes very, very smart to not spend all your skill points at once, because with this build, you end up being level 20 in no time. You will be locked out of skill points from that point on, and many cool skills only get unlocked when your level is high enough. So, or your no, sorry, that's nonsense, not your level is high enough, when you have unlocked the tomes. So basically what I'm trying to say is, maybe you want to wait until you have unlocked the tomes for all the nice hero skills before you spend all of your skill points there, because, you know, they are limited. And as you see here now, we totally take over everything. The AoE spell here does heal us now. We have innate regeneration. It is almost impossible to take you down at that point anymore, and you can only make things even more brutal from this point on. But level 12 is all it takes to take over the world here. So one last mention, pocket items. Go for them if you ever see some that are really good for you. Currently, though, Crypt Blade is bugged and cannot be used by dragons, even though it fits into the miscellaneous slots. It doesn't work. I don't know when this gets fixed. And the ring slot. Use it. These are all the slots that you got, but you can use these items here really, really well. And One thing that also occurred to me quite often, summons are massively overpowered when you want to take down larger clusters of enemies alone, because they are really, really good at distracting the enemy and mitigating the alpha strike. If you want to take down like 12 or 18 enemies at once, I think you will need summons to utilize that, but you know, you can always bring other people. Alright, that sums it up. I felt like sharing this with you. Currently, I don't know of any build that has a more overpowered base frame. It grows only worse from here, and I leave the options for you, and please write me in the comment section what kind of atrocious creations you did with this base frame, or if you even discovered something more powerful than me. I'd be really, really thrilled to know. So leave a thumbs up or a subscription even to this channel. I'd be delighted if you did so. And apart from that, have a wonderful day. Check out the playlist link down there leading to all the other Age of Wonders 4 info videos I did. And thanks for watching yet again. Bye-bye.